I want to take a minute to introduce me and my fellow panelist, Kathy. So my name is Deanna Gerber. I'm the recruitment coordinator at the College of Veterinary Medicine, which essentially means I work with students on their path to vet school. So primarily undergraduate and high school students, but also non-traditional students, graduate students, anybody who's interested in vet school, essentially. Kathy, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, I'm Kathy Keel. I'm the coordinator of admissions. And basically, once you start applying, that's where you'll see me. I can help people through the process with their courses, what works, what doesn't work, things like that. And so basically, I guide people through the application process and help them find their way when they have questions.
Mm-hmm. Perfect. So by way of kind of a little bit, oh shoot, I should have put this. I even have our email addresses are there. We'll go ahead and list those at the end of the workshop as well. So that you can, if you have questions, follow-up questions, and would like to get a hold of us, you've got our contact information here. So, the other thing I wanted to mention today, as I hear my dog still barking upstairs, is that I found water in the basement of my brother-in-law and sister's house that I'm dog sitting / house sitting at. So there's a little bit of chaos. So I apologize about that, but between Kathy and I, we will hopefully jam pack these next 3 hours with a lot of good information for you. So if I do have to step away, I apologize. Dealing with a little mini flood this morning. Okay, so thank you. Already seeing a lot of great questions in the Q&A box. We do want to keep things slightly organized today. And so what we're going to do is we are going to talk about in the next, until about 10:45 here, we're going to talk about the application details. So we'll go over VMCAS, namely transcript entry. I know a lot of people have questions about transcript entry, so we'll talk about that. We'll also kind of talk through the Iowa State supplemental application, give you some tips for that. That will be a lot of logistics and kind of procedural information. So we'll go through that as clearly, but also probably as quickly as we can. Then we'll go on to talking about the admissions process, which I think is, if I have to, wager a guess, is why most of you logged on today, is how do you get in, tips for letters of recommendation, tips for writing your essays, tips for, experiences, all of that kind of stuff. So we're hoping to spend the bulk of our time this morning on that. We do want to spend some time just going over kind of any random questions and answers that you have. So like about, 30 minutes, we'll kind of clean up any answers that you have as well. And then through the registration and through some of you who emailed me questions directly, we did get a lot of questions about just kind of our program in general. What does student life look like? What do our classes look like? What do you, do we track, all of that kind of stuff. And so the last half an hour will be devoted to kind of more program details, knowing that if you shut up for, specific application questions, we will not be offended at all. If you know about Iowa State, if you've heard me and Kathy speak before, that program details will probably be a little bit of a refresher, but we did have a good number of people ask about that. So we do want to cover a little bit of that as well. One note I want to say, well, a couple notes I want to say. One is that this information is specific to Iowa State. So we may make some generalizations or may say, well, some vet schools do X, Y, Z, but the advice we're giving is specific to, essentially applying to Iowa State. And also it's good to keep in the back of your mind that there's not really a specific one specific path to be admitted to any college of veterinary medicine. You know, there are people who are admitted for all kinds of different things that they've done to prepare for vet med. So great. With that, thank you. Still have some great questions rolling in here. And so we will go ahead and dive into it. So if you've started an application, which it seemed like a good number of you had that were showing up here today. The other thing I forgot to mention, sorry, backtracking. This webinar is being recorded. It will be put up on YouTube later. So if you can only, you know, get to, you know, the first hour or something like that of the webinar, we'll also have it up on YouTube by the end of the week next week. Definitely, hopefully before that, but definitely by the end of the week next week. So there we go. Okay, now Vimcas. So you can see here, this is kind of that screen that you see when you first log into Vimcas. This is pretty, you know, self-explanatory. You've probably played around in here at least a little bit. One of the things that Kathy and I wanted to point out to you is this check status. It is really important to kind of keep your eye on that. That is where you'll be able to see when your transcripts are received, letters of recommendation are received as well. So it's really, really good to, oops, sorry. I thought I had another slide in there. I don't. It's really good to keep your eye on that check status. The other thing is that they will, typically these alerts here, they will also send you an email, or at least I have been receiving emails when there's an alert on Vimcas. So this is a really good place to, you know, keep an eye on in Vimcas as well. That's really how you're going to keep, you know, up to date on what you still need to do, what's in, all of that kind of stuff. So looking at Iowa State's portion of Vimcas, obviously you, in that program materials, you have all of your schools that you're applying to listed in here. So if we go ahead and click on Iowa State here, you'll see kind of our page. Questions, the question tab is where you're going to fill out your general information and the general essay question, which is about valuing diversity. And then if you're a Nebraska resident, you'll also fill out some information on that. If you're interested in the DVM MBA program, which is the only program, Kathy, correct me if I'm wrong, the only program that you would need to apply kind of simultaneously with the DVM program. So if you're interested in DVM PhD, DVM MPH, those sorts of things, you'll apply to those kind of separately. We really advise students to wait a little while before you apply to that dual program like an MPH or a different master's program, just so you can kind of get the hang of vet school. But DVM MBA, if you're interested in that dual program, that is one you need to know when you apply to vet school. And so you'll write an essay there as well. And then please remember that we have a supplemental application, which we'll talk about after a little bit. But that question section is where you'll find our additional essay question. But that is not the supplemental application. That is found on our website. So, great. I'm going to try and go through this real quick here. Looks like we have some prereqs and some coursework questions. So let's move on to transcripts, Kathy. Yeah, okay.
Just want me to take it away?
Take it away, Kathy. I'll go through some of these questions and make sure that we get the, yeah, get some.
Okay. So did you want to introduce with this, or?
I can,
Okay.
or if you
I
want
didn't
to.
know whether, okay. Sorry, we can tell we're really well practiced today. Anyway, professional transcript entry, you can pay to have VMCAS people enter your transcript information for you. So if you want, they will do it. The one thing you have to remember is they will send it back to you. You will have to approve it. This has happened to quite a few people, is that the transcript entry is done, they send it to you for approval, and after that, you don't approve it, so your application never goes anywhere. If you do professional transcript entry, I advise you do it early. Again, the closer it gets to the deadline, the more chances there are something will go wrong. But again, this is just, you pay somebody to enter all your coursework from your transcripts in. You have to review it, approve it, and send it back, and then you can use it to click off your requirements for each institution that you've applied to. And you can do everything. You just don't have to spend the time going line by line through your transcript.
Great.
You can change the
Yep.
slide. Okay, prerequisites. When you get into, if you are entering your own, or if everything's already entered, we ask you to choose which courses will fulfill our prerequisites. That does not necessarily mean we will use that course if it doesn't, but it helps us a lot, because there's some courses whose name or whatever, you look at it and it doesn't appear to be anything like what the prerequisite is, but in essence, when you look at the course description and everything, it is. When you look at your prerequisites and choose those, you need to, you also need to, I forgot after the transcript entry, if they do it, you will have to add in planned or in progress courses. They will only enter those courses that you have already taken and that are listed on your transcript. You will have to add in the planned courses, or if you're taking in progress courses. One of the things that we do at Iowa State is we will use only the transcripts that are submitted to Vimcas. So if you're taking a summer course, but you know the transcript isn't going to be ready in time to get in by the Vimcas deadline, that is to be listed as an in-progress course. Any courses that you are taking in fall or spring, you need to list as planned courses. You need to put those in, because if they aren't in and you're taking prerequisites, we have no way of knowing that you have that course planned or currently taking it. So it's really important that you add your in-progress courses if the transcript didn't make it to Vimcas, or your planned courses for fall and spring. You can go on.
So we did have a question, Kathy,
oh, sure.
About, we have a few questions.
Oh, okay. Let's go on with this.
One is, when selecting prerequisite courses for Iowa State after entering coursework in Vimcas, should I choose one class per prerequisite, or should I select all that apply?
Okay, for the science prerequisites, you would just choose one course. You do not have to choose electives. Most anybody who, the electives are listed there because some that are doing the 2-year pathway will have just the exact number of credits that they need. So we want them to know that you need 8 credits of electives, not just the specific prerequisite courses. Social science and humanities, you only need to choose 6 credits worth. We do not use, for electives, social sciences and humanities, we do not use the GPA. So as long as you've gotten a C in the course, it fulfills the requirement. This is more of a reminder to you that you need to have that coursework as well. It's a lot more difficult if you choose a lot of courses. So choose the courses that you feel best meet that prerequisite. Again, we will look at your transcript as well as what you've put down. So we will make that decision as to what fits our prerequisite best, but we always like to know what you think does, because a lot of times there are just some schools that have courses that sound a lot different than what they really are. So that's why we need you to put those down.
Okay, great. Another question here was about a course with a lab. So if I have a course with that is a lecture and a lab, but the lecture is labeled as 4 credits, the lab is 0. How should I put this in VMCAS?
You still need to, I believe the North and South Dakota, maybe South Dakota, you put it in that way. It'll have 0 credits for the lab. When you enter your transcript, it has to be, if you're entering it, it has to be a duplicate of your transcript. So if it says, yes, say chemistry 1, 4 credits, lecture, then chemistry 1 lab, then you need to put them both down. You check both as prerequisites. It's fairly common sense, but that's the way they want it. So please do it that way. If you don't do things their way, they will send it back to you, and it'll just take you more time to get everything completed.
Okay, are you ready for more questions, Kathy, or were there more details you wanted to talk about as far as the transcript goes?
No, the main thing with transcripts is transcript entry is to please make sure it's a duplicate of your transcript. A lot of times, if for some reason your school does biology BIOL, but for some reason you were in a hurry and did BIO, they won't accept it. And so that's why I just said, just be really careful when you enter, make sure that what you enter is identical to what is on your transcript. It's just because it's a big headache if it isn't.
Yeah. Okay.
You can explain about what you've done.
What I've done.
How you filled it out. Did you have any problems?
I did. I mean, I filled out a mock application, that's the word I was looking for, and put a few courses in, and yeah, I would say the same thing, like just make it exactly, I tried to do it exactly with what my transcript was. There is a video here on the side of your transcript that will help kind of with commonly asked questions, but it is definitely tedious. And it is one of those things that, yeah, it's a detail-oriented sort of thing. So, Megan asks, if your institution of undergraduate learning doesn't offer oral communications, can certain English courses fulfill that prereq?
Okay, first off, if you will have a degree by next spring, the degree will fulfill the oral communications requirement and 3 credits of English composition. In that case, you don't need to worry about it if you have or will have your degree. It's not generally English courses that fulfill that. There are some courses that have or some institutions that have speaking intensive courses. They will fulfill it provided they're listed as a speaking intensive course. There are some schools that have basically speaking and writing across the curriculum. We just need some type of documentation from that school that you have met their speaking and writing requirement. I know this, I think it's Michigan, one of the Michigan schools that has writing A and writing B, which also includes speaking. So it depends upon what your school does. Most all schools have a speaking and writing requirement that you have to meet for your undergraduate. We also use things like there's business presentations is one. We can do personal, what am I trying to think of? Not personal communication, but there's professional communication. You can do, what is the word I'm trying to think of? This is going to be a long day, kids.
Speech? No.
Pardon?
Speech?
It's
No.
not speech. No. Speech courses, yes, of course, speech courses work. Individual communication.
Okay.
You can do group communication, but it has to be a communication course, not a writing course for that. But again, if you will have your degree, which by far a majority of our applicants do, that will fulfill the oral communications and 3 credits composition. So you just don't even have to worry about those at that point.
Great. Okay, perfect. Okay, so next question is from Lauren. Do you accept online courses from an accredited university or college for biochemistry, genetics, or anatomy and physiology?
Yes, we accept online courses for basically any of our prerequisites. However, they do have to be equivalent to our courses. Off the top of my head, I know we accept all the pre-health online courses from the University of New England and Doane University in Nebraska. University of California, Berkeley, Extension has some that we accept. The only thing I say is, because there's so many different courses out there, is that if you want to take an online course, if you would email me the institution, the course department number and everything, I can confirm that it will work. Like I said, those are the ones I know off the top of my head because a lot of people take them, but I'm sure there's others that you could use just as well. And but I would just want to confirm that, so you don't go off and take a course and think that, you know, this will be fine, and then it isn't. So yeah. But yes, we accept online courses and online labs.
Great. And so this is kind of a follow-up to that. Brooke said she just was notified that her school is going online for fall of 2020. So we're accepting courses. Are we accepting kind of blanket for those courses, or should they still email you?
If they're university, if we accepted the course and they're offering the same course online, there's absolutely no problem. Okay. As long as it's the same course and not something different, nope, we're good with that.
Great. Okay, great. A bunch of really great questions coming in. So we'll keep rolling on transcript / coursework questions. So if you're a this is from Giselle. If you're a grad student and taking prereq courses, do you enter your grad courses or your undergrad?
Okay. Well, for your transcript, you have to enter all of them. For the prerequisite, if both courses will work, you can enter either one of them. So I guess I don't quite understand the question, only because there's no need to retake a course as a graduate. But if you're just taking it for the first time, we get mixed courses when people are in graduate programs all the time, where they're taking undergraduate coursework and graduate coursework. So you just, whatever your transcript has on it is what we need.
Great. But should submit transcripts from graduate programs, definitely. Undergraduate programs. And the next question kind of ties into that. Taking courses before college. So like high school courses for college credit. Yes.
Right. What you have, okay, you have to, when you take college courses in high school, we still need the transcript, or I should say VMCAS still needs the transcript. You have to make sure when you send transcripts to Vimcas that you are sending from each school where you received credit for a course. Even if they show up as transfer credits on another transcript, that doesn't matter. You need the original transcript from the school where you took the course. So it's the same for the high school. You want a transcript from the school you took the course, or from the school where you got the grade, I should say, because sometimes I know they're done in high school, but you still need a transcript from that school. Mm-hmm. Hopefully that's clear, because Vimcas will either send that back, or if you don't have it and then you submit later in the process and don't get a chance to get that transcript in, your application will be dropped. So it is very important to pay attention to detail, but we need, or VMCAS needs transcripts from each post-secondary school you've attended, whether you did it during high school or later, whether it shows up on another transcript or not.
Great. So then clarifying that, Allison had asked about like a community college youth orchestra during elementary school.
That I probably wouldn't worry about, but does it, I guess I'd worry about it only if it shows up on any of your other transcripts. Because VMCAS goes through and sees what other, where they say transfer credits or anything, they will look through transcripts for specifically transfer credits and then look for a transcript from that course, from that institution. If it does for some reason show up on another transcript someplace, then yes, you would need a transcript. If it doesn't show up on any of your other transcripts, don't worry about it.
Great, perfect. Another question about transcripts. Carrie Ann asks, will I receive a notification from Vimcas if the transcript is not a duplicate? So
Okay,
if for some reason the transcript, they put in their transcripts, Vimcas reviews them and says, you need to change this. I believe you do get a notification.
Right, they will send it back.
Mm-hmm.
They will tell you this is wrong. Sometimes, occasionally, if it's just like a typo, maybe you put 3 credits in instead of 4 credits for a course. Occasionally, if it's just like one little error, they'll correct it. But if it's like a missing transcript or you've done a whole bunch of courses with the wrong department, things like that, then they will send it back to you.
So, Kathy, can you see the questions, the Q&A box?
Yep.
There should be some that say Deanna would like to answer question live.
Oh, okay.
Those are all the transcript ones.
Yep.
Can you go through those?
I'll take over. You go handle the puppy. Okay, hang on, guys. Deanna called me this morning and said the basement was flooding, so I knew it was going to be a little bit crazy. Okay, hang on. Okay, I'm looking, Deanna. Where are your answers? Okay, here we go. Can you, this question from Allison is, can you only select prerequisites after you finish the verifying process on the transcript page? Okay, you can select them as soon as everything is entered. So if you're doing professional transcript entry, you have to wait until they send it back and you approve it. And once you've entered everything, you can select the courses for your transcript. So that is not a problem. Okay, for transcript entry, do tutorials count as a semester hour? So for calculus lecture with 1 hour tutorial a week, would it be considered a 4 semester hour course? It's, for transcript entry, it's whatever is on your transcript. So again, if they do tutorials and have it listed, then yes, and they list it as a 1 credit, yes, it would be considered one credit. If it's not listed on your transcript that way, and it's just listed as, I don't know, calculus 1, 3 credits, that's what that course is worth, unless they've added the tutorial or say calculus 1, 4 credits. It's whatever is written on your transcript.
Great, I'm back. That was EJ's question, right?
Yep.
Okay, great. Thanks, Kathy. So, let's see. So did you answer Allison's question about selecting prereqs?
Yep.
Okay, great. And then what about, let's see, I think it was Caitlin's question here. if we took AP courses in high school, do we need a high school transcript? Or if they're listed as test out credits on our undergraduate transcript, is this all we need for AP?
Right. For AP scores, if your college transcript says, it could say AP or it could say test, say English Composition 1 or whatever their English comp course is. If that's listed, then you can go ahead and not worry about your AP credits, because we know that they use those AP credits for English composition, and that's not a problem. Actually, the only time we need AP credits scores is if they put in a lump sum, like they say AP 30 credits for your, and that's all that's written on your transcript is AP 30 credits. We don't know what courses they were for. And you cannot give us a copy of your degree audit. Degree audits often have where your AP courses were used within your curriculum. So we do accept a copy of that if it's a lump sum on your transcript. If they don't have that, you can ask your registrar. We've gotten letters from registrar's office saying this is what the courses were used for. And if you can't get that, then we would need a copy. It does not need to be an official copy. It can be a copy. I believe now everything's online. You can print out what your AP scores. You should be able to get into the system and just print it out. We will accept that. In most cases, though, we have found that they do tell you, they'll be listed as a T for test out or something like that on your actual transcript. So we see the actual course they use. Again, if you can't get any of the above, a degree audit, a letter from the registrar, then we would need a copy of the scores.
Great. Okay, so next question from Brooke here says, if we need to upload our high school transcript for the college credit we earned in high school, do I only type in my college credit coursework or all of the courses I took in high school?
You do not send in your high school transcript. If you took college courses, they had to come from an institution. You need to contact that institution. They don't accept high school transcripts. That won't even be looked at. So you need to, if you've gotten college credit, it had to have been taken from some specific institution. Usually they're community colleges within the area, and you need a transcript from that institution, and they will have a transcript for you if you got, again, English 105, English Comp 1 from whatever community college. And that shows up on your high school transcript. That community college will have a copy of it. So you should be able to go ahead and get that. They will not take high school transcripts. Nothing is looked at from high school transcripts.
Great. Another question here from Bridget. So how many English comp credit is needed? Would it count if I tested out of my university's reading and writing course, but they didn't actually give me any credit hours for it?
That's fine. We just need some documentation, and the registrar's office or somebody can give documentation that you've met their reading and writing requirement for that school. We do need some type of documentation if it's not on your transcript.
Fantastic. Okay, so if we chose, this is from Gina, if we chose to use professional transcript entry, do we send our transcript to Vimcas in order for them to put our courses in? And would we still have to send in another official transcript to Vimcas when we submit our application? You need to submit your transcripts, send your transcripts to Vimcas once. They will use that to enter in your transcripts, and then you will verify it. Right? That kind of.
Right. Yeah, that's absolutely right. You send it to them once, you pay for it, because this is all one company. You pay for professional transcript entry. Your transcript will match with your application. They'll give it to the people that enter it. They'll enter it. They'll send it back to you saying, we've got all this in, you need to review it and approve it. You approve it, everything's done.
Great. Did you happen to answer Shannon's question about Latin?
No, I did not.
When it comes to prerequisites, is Latin considered a foreign language?
I guess I would say yes, but since we don't require foreign languages, you would have to check with the schools that you're applying to. I know there is a spot for foreign language. You can select and say, this course is a foreign language course, but you need to check with each institution. I would definitely say, yes, it is a foreign language, but I'm not sure how each school would interpret that.
Mm-hmm. Great. Okay, and then I believe I'll scan through, or Kathy, as we move on, if you want to scan through and look if we have any more questions. But I believe this question from Lauren is kind of the last logistics, transcript entry question. Lots of other great questions that we will absolutely get to, but I think this is the last kind of transcript entry one. So Lauren asks, I received my master's through the University of Edinburgh. Do I need my certificate of my degree, or is my transcript enough?
Okay, transcript is enough. However, you will have to go, VMCAS requires any foreign transcript to go through World Educational Service, WES. They do foreign transcript reviews. And so you would have to put it through that. You don't need your certificate or anything, but you would have to put your transcript through their organization and get it and have them send it to VMCAS. Any foreign institution where you've gotten credits specifically from that institution, not a study abroad where you're actually taking your institutions, your primary institutions courses overseas. This is if you take courses at an overseas institution, it has to go through WES. Unfortunately, that will cost more money, but that's what you would have to do. And they would request that. And if you don't send it, then you would be missing a transcript.
Great. Perfect. Thank you. Do you mind perusing, Kathy, through the questions?
I can peruse as you go.
Any other ones? I want to make sure we keep somewhat on time.
Yeah, I know.
Even though I know that part of my running around is delaying things too. So, but I wanted to talk just a little bit about we'll talk more about who should be evaluators later, kind of in the second hour-ish. But I wanted to talk just a little bit about what that looks like on the, that evaluation request, what that looks like. So obviously, if you started your VMCAS application, maybe you've already put in some letters of recommendation or some evaluators to request that letter of recommendation. You're going to see this screen here. You're going to fill out, all of that kind of stuff. The important thing is that you can select your own due date. They still have until September 15th at 11:59 p.m. Eastern time to fill out that, evaluation, regardless of what you put in that box. But that due date can help people that maybe you're worried about, okay, the beginning of the semester, I know they're going to get busy because they're an academic advisor. So, I'd really like to be able to follow up with them by the end of July or second week in August or whatever that looks like. So you can put your own due date there, and that's perfectly fine. Once you do that, immediately, like instantaneously, they are going to get this email. So it will say, that this person is requesting, or that you're requesting a letter of recommendation. This personal note here, I wrote in, and then that will, say, please complete your recommendation by the due date that you selected. Again, knowing that if they miss that due date, they still have until September 15th at 11:59 p.m. Eastern time to do that. And then they provide a link to that kind of evaluator portal. The evaluator portal looks like this. So they're going to be able to go in. They can actually create a username and password. I know that some advisors who do a lot of pre-vet advising already have kind of their username and password and just log in every year, and they can see all of their kind of requests for evaluation that way. But then when it specifically gets to you, they'll click on your name and they'll see this. Again, you've got like that kind of personal note here. And then you'll have some questions here. Here is the interesting thing, and I know that, well, we'll get into it a little bit later, but one of the things to kind of notice is that this is the only question here that has to deal with veterinary medicine specifically. Now, their evaluation, their letter, all of that kind of stuff may reference veterinary medicine, but are you a veterinarian? And if so, which veterinary school, from which veterinary school did you graduate? Are the only two questions that are like veterinarian specific. I think that that's, you know, kind of good to know. And we'll talk again more about in depth about what that looks like, or who letters of recommendation might come from as well. So. I think in here though is a good time to answer this question, Sarah. Thank you for posting it. It's a good one. If we waive access to the evaluations, is that better or not? Kathy, do you?
It kind of depends, and it's totally up to you. In my experience, if you waive access to it, that means the person, it just kind of gives the impression, because whether or not it's true, I don't know, that you're confident in what they're going to say, and then they can write what they want to write, knowing you're not going to see the recommendation. And I think we'll talk more about that as we get into the recommendations, because there's a lot you need to think about when choosing who you're going to have evaluate.
Mm-hmm. Okay, we are already over time, Kathy.
Sorry. Never mind.
No, I mean, I'm just saying, like, we gotta get going. Thank you guys thank you all for being patient with us. Great questions though coming in. So like I said, we want to.
May I answer one question real quick here? That's here that has to go with courses.
Yep.
This is, does a technical communication course count as a prerequisite for oral communications? Again, it depends upon the course. If it has presentations in it, yes, it would. But if you're strictly writing reports or something like that, that will not work. So that's the answer. It depends upon the course.
Great. Perfect. Okay. So one of the things with filling out the Vimcas application is the little question mark. We'll send you to Vimcas help. They have a bunch of different tutorials, things like that. That's the best place to go. If you email Kathy or myself with like Vimcas specific questions, most likely the answer that we are going to most likely the answer we're going to give you is, I'm not sure. You'll have to, you know, ask Vimcas. Sometimes if I'm feeling very generous, I will go on Vimcas's website and search for the answer and then email you the link. I don't want to get in the habit of doing that too much, because that will be a lot. But if you legitimately cannot find the answer to something, it's good to reach out to Vimcas. It's, you know, Vimcas directly if it's a Vimcas question. So so for procedural type things, they have a lot of good help on there. But like I said, definitely ask Vimcas if you have any questions about that. So we'll go on briefly and talk about, we always build in breaks. But I think Kathy and I the last couple times have just talked through the breaks. If you need to take a break, go for it. You know, take a break, know that this is being recorded, You can catch up on things, you know, later on this week too. But we're gonna keep on rolling if that's okay. And then we'll take a few minute break kind of, or a few minutes break a little bit later. But let's talk a little bit about the supplemental application. So you can find that through Vimcas. You can also find it on our website if you go to vetmed.iastate.edu. You click on students and then future students and then apply. You'll get to our supplemental application. Obviously you will be, if you're applying this year, you'll be applying for the class of 2025. And you'll click on that button there. You'll go through, so, you know, create an account, all of that kind of stuff. And then you'll come to this page where there are these terms of use. So please read through those. One of the things it'll do is it will tell you about, you know, how to communicate us or with us, how you're going to receive communications. It will talk to you about checking the status page. It will tell you all about that. So please, please, please read through that. After you do that, you'll come to your status page. So this application status here will change depending on, you know, once we have received your VMCAS, once you are in academic review, once you're in committee review, and then it will ultimately change to your final decision around February 15th. You know, so that's a very, very good to keep your eye on. The other, oh, and I think I even have arrows here, don't I? Yes, I do. There you go. Then this message board is another really great thing to keep your eye on as well. Kathy, do you want to talk about the message board real quick?
Right. The message board is basically email, but it comes in and it stays with whatever you write, and whatever we write back to you stays with your application. It is extremely important that you use the message board and don't start emailing. This way, there's 3 people in our office. I have 2 other people working with me that review files. And so if I don't happen to be around and somebody needs a question answered, they can go back in and look at what's been discussed previously about your application. So you really need to pay attention to that. Don't email us. We will not respond to the email. It needs to be put in the message board. And we are going to be getting very strict about that, because basically you just go log in, click on it. It's similar to just writing an email. And when we send you one, there is a notification message that goes out with it. However, it does not always come through. It gets stuck in junk mail files because sometimes enough comes out from the university that whatever servers, whatever companies it's going through decides that we're a spammer and not an institution. So you can look in your junk emails and things like that. But my advice is just go on once a week. It doesn't take very long. Check. You'll be, once this is the first page, the status page is the first page you'll see once you log in after your first login. It's easy enough to see if you have a message waiting and get in there and answer it. People are unfortunately miss deadlines that we post on the message board. If we have questions for them, we always put a deadline as to when you need to answer the question. It is extremely important that you use the message board and not just emails. We'd be inundated with emails. This makes us, and this is also a place that we probably pay more attention to during the application cycle than even some of the emails.
Great.
That's it.
Thank you, Kathy. And then we wanted to talk about the signature page a little bit too. So it used to be you filled out your application, you printed off a signature page that said, you know, everything is true on this. It talked about that you had read all of the kind of terms of use, all of that, you would sign it and you would send in a payment. You can do that now online. So you can fill out an electronic signature page, and then you can pay $75 for
U.S. citizens.
like U.S. citizen. Thank you, U.S. citizens. And it's $95
for
international students.
Right.
Yes.
And that's not where you're going to school. It's whether you're a citizen of the United
Yes.
States or not is basically the difference there. There was a question that I want to answer
Yep.
that came through. It's this one. It says, the price that we pay through VMCAS, is that including Iowa State's application fee, or is that separate? It is separate. The company that runs the VMCAS application is its own company. Every institution that you apply to, if they have a supplemental application and a supplemental processing fee, that needs to go to the school. So we are that way. You need to pay, our fee is $75. That's regardless of how much you're paying to VMCAS, because it's not like a joint thing. They're two separate entities.
Mm-hmm.
So I just wanted to.
Perfect. Thank you. I saw that you had, clicked that question. That's awesome. Okay, so let's tackle just a few supplemental application questions here. Mary asks, do you need to submit all of the school-specific applications within VMCAS at one time? So you will need to fill out all of the program information within Vimcas. Those are the school specific things, like selecting prerequisites, possibly some additional essay questions like on our kind of questions tab within Vimcas. That all needs to be completed at the same time. Supplemental applications, each school is different. I know some schools that wait, and once they receive a VMCAS, they send out a supplemental application. Sometimes you go through a round of elimination before you get a supplemental application. There are multiple ways that happens. So please contact the schools that you're interested in. For Iowa State, as soon as you start a VMCAS application, you can also start a supplemental application. The supplemental application is going to ask for your VMCAS ID so that we can kind of tie those two together. The supplemental application is due on September 15th at 11:59 p.m. Eastern time as well. So that you can, correct me if I'm wrong, Kathy, but it doesn't matter if you submit VMCAS before the supplemental or the supplemental before VMCAS.
Makes no difference.
Okay, so it makes no difference that way. You can do that. And this kind of gets to Margaret's question as well. You can submit them. They both have the same due date. So you just want to make sure that both are complete and they are submitted on or before September 15th at 11:59 p.m. Eastern time. So, okay. So question here, I think this might be the last of our kind of supplemental application questions. One question, what happens if you are, if you have a green card and are considered a permanent resident? Would you pay $95 or $75?
Unfortunately, 95, because you're not a citizen.
Great.
And that's the way they divide it.
Okay.
We go by the university rules.
Perfect. Okay, so got a lot of great questions. Again, thank you for submitting those. That is kind of the end of like logistical sort of things.